Hey, there you go.
So,
And you're coming in much better too. You were a little pixelated before. It's actually way better.
is it way better? Okay.
I'm gonna go back outside.
Yeah, cool.
Uh,
So, fingers crossed it works.
yes. Oh man, this is like you're right here.
Brilliant. We're game.
Now we actually may want to start over, or maybe we'll sum up kind of where we were.
I'm happy to start again or carry on. It's up to you. I don't mind.
Let's start again, but we'll be authentic about having tried earlier. Well, one thing I wish I would have said, Mr. Joshi, is how we met.
Yeah.
I mean, people are like, one, they still don't, nobody really knows who I am anymore, or still. They may not know who you are, but if I could just say I wore this shirt for a reason.
Yeah.
And you know what? This is the actual shirt I wore on the wedding day.
Yeah. Yeah.
It still fits amazingly.
Married life, eh?
Yeah. So you and I met at a Megadeth weekend. I want to say maybe a weekend retreat. It was called Megadeth Bootcamp,
Yeah.
and we got. I guess we hung out a little bit there, but I feel like we got to know each other even more so afterwards, after the fact.
Yeah.
That was way back in 2017. You have since been to DC. We got to do a haunted tour and go out to dinner.
Yeah.
And meet your wife, who's lovely.
Oh, thank you.
And we've kept in touch on our little Megadeth Bootcamp Facebook page, of course. When I think of Milan, I think that you are a lawyer. Are you a lawyer?
I'm a lawyer, yeah.
Yeah,
For Barclays. I think you got Barclays in the US, the Barclays Bank.
yes, we do.
Yeah.
But also quite, I guess, engaged. Let's say politically. Maybe if it's just with opinion,
Yeah.
or is it more than just that?
Nah, not with campaigning or so on, but just there's a talk radio we have here called LBC Radio, and it's all about politics and what's in current affairs. And so you can phone in with your view and chat to the host. And especially during Brexit, I think, yeah, they knew me at LBC when I used to phone in. Oh, hi, Milan again. It's like, yeah, I've got another opinion. So about this, about that. So yeah, it's I did phone in a few times.
Well, that's impressive that they know who you are and still take your calls.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. So which has its plus and minuses. They're like, oh, you're a good caller, but we know that you're a lawyer, so certain hosts don't want to speak to you because you're all about facts.
Well, and I want to say this too, that talking to you is almost like the perfect conversation because I would say the same with Chaz. Chaz and I have done this a couple times. Chaz is another person. Well, front man for Kings of Thrash. He and I actually, I think, kind of came up with this idea of radical middle, and then that evolves a radical metal. But it's me trying to get clarity on what this show is supposed to be. I'm like, I love heavy metal. I love talking about politics. I don't know what to do. But with you, we could talk about both of them, and maybe we'll talk about
everything.
Yeah, Megadeth later.
Yeah.
But I did want to continue. We tried talking earlier, and the connection was bad. We have since, I think, fixed it. But where we left off was really not a whole lot of mediums out there for discourse that's authentic, where maybe opposing sides come in and actually may change minds depending on the quality and the facts of the debate.
I agree, and it's one of those things. I don't know if you agree with me. Like now, you can't just buy the single; you have to buy the album, and it's almost you're locked in to all sorts of opinions. It's like, well, I don't want to buy the album. I want to buy the singles because there's some things I agree with you, some bits I don't agree with you, some bits I agree with you, some bits I don't. But it seems like with everyone wanting the album, they're entrenched on every single bit, and it's like loggerheads against each other. And it's like if that was to dissipate, then you'd have much more exchanging of ideas. Because at the end of the day, we all want to improve everything. We want to have a better quality of life for us and our loved ones. What's the best way to achieve that? Using facts. And I think if everyone went down to that level, they'd be like, okay, I can see your point of view, but actually, wouldn't we suffer? No, no, no. If we did this, we did this. Oh, okay, I see it. I see it. It gets a bit tribal. I don't know what you think.
In America, for sure, it's very in a strange way, I sympathize with politicians, at least in the current way it's set up with this two-party system, where you, um, I guess, you're still free to have your own views, but you kind of have to toe the party line to a degree so that you're a team player. And I think that is in the interest of, I mean, actually getting things done and whatnot. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit there. But the tragedy of that is that there's not a whole lot of room for public dissent. And there is public dissent, but I think at the maybe the peril of those dissenting. But I think the thing that's infuriating for me is that sometimes the Republicans might do something good that if Democrats acknowledged it, because they actually
Yeah.
believe that internally, uh, that would give them more credibility to me, and the exact same way the other way around.
And then, but then it's like, who dips their toe in the water first? Because if they do it, then they may receive an almighty backlash from their party or members, and then their career development could be curtailed. It's like, oh, you're the person who who praised the Republicans, so we don't want likes of you. And then that person
Yeah.
would be like, well, what was the point of me doing that? What was the point of me sticking my neck out?
Yeah, well, it's funny. There's two maybe good examples lately. I don't know if you follow this guy Sam Harris. Uh,
No.
he's like a kind of one of these thought leaders, philosopher guy that's out there. You'll see him on some pretty popular, I guess, podcasts, but he has his own show called Making Sense. I really love listening to him because I don't always agree with him, but I always feel like he's authentic.
Mm.
Um, but he plays that middle ground, and this is like about radical middle, uh, getting radical about, hey, saying how we feel, even if it doesn't fall on one side or the other, and that's
Yeah,
okay. But
exactly.
he gets a lot of pushback because he had some criticisms of like how the U.S. response to COVID, and he also gets a lot of pushback and publicly gets executed or eviscerated by his what he thought we did right in COVID.
Right.
And he kind of has some sympathy for a moving target that was COVID, and just by sharing what he felt, even though it was authentic, he's getting eviscerated because he didn't fall on one side or the other. The
Wow.
uh, the other, and I'll shut up in a second, so because I'm talking a lot here. But the other guy recently, who I do not have really a whole lot of respect for, not very much at all, but is this our Speaker of the House? I don't know if you've heard of this guy McCarthy.
McCarthy,
He
yeah.
recently, yeah, he recently is. He might be ousted next week as the Speaker of the House because he went against the MAGA Republicans and made a deal with the Democrats to keep the government from shutting down
Down.
Monday. Yeah,
Right.
and so he might just, I am on the same page with him in this example because he's like, someone's got to be the adult in the room, and we got to figure out how to keep the government running. Otherwise, our troops aren't going to get paid, as well as a million other people.
What I found, I guess, slightly taken away, but I mean, related in terms of sides coming together. I was fascinated watching the documentaries about January the 6th. And it was just amazing of just watching, hearing from Republicans and Democrats in the room, hiding from the protesters. And they're on opposite sides, but they're both come together saying, we have to finish what we started. We can't let them overtake. So no matter how wherever it is, 1 a.m. or whatever, I think it was Cheney. I think it was Cheney and somebody else like Chuck Schumer just saying, look, we have to get this done. We have to, from the constitutional point of view, and they all came together. Like, yeah. So, well, not all. Some came together.
Yeah, Pence stayed and did his duty. What's fascinating about that, and while that wound was still fresh, even the staunch Trump supporters the next day eviscerated him. And it was like, okay, finally the world's waking up to the danger of this guy. But then a few months later, they're all on his side again.
Yeah,
it's a weird one.
It's fascinating watching the politics play out, because I think Trump is the favorite again, isn't he? For
Big
the
time.
Republican yeah. And Ron DeSantis, he was up there. Now his career's kind of petered away. That's the impression I've kind of got.
He was just on Real Time with Bill Maher last night or Friday night. And he actually did a good job. I haven't been quite a fan of his, or I haven't been that impressed with him, let's say, because he just seems like, I don't know, well, a huge dork for one thing, but and that shouldn't matter. It doesn't really, but yeah. I think he kind of messed up his opportunity. He's pretty young. He's only 45. And he should have probably, if he, I'm definitely anti-Trump. We can get into that, but he should have maybe not opposed Trump this time. I think, and maybe should have run
with
4 years later or something, or maybe run with him. Yeah, maybe run with him.
And that's interesting.
So I think he kind of messed up his the way he did it, but so now he's got Trump. Of course, these guys do this, and then they make up as long as they agree as long as they agree to support each other or pay fealty later to Trump.
It's all about deals. It's all about deals. So you scratch my back, and hey, I'll scratch yours.
Well, I was just gonna say, Trump's facing some pretty serious legal stuff, and so I'm still thinking that, even though it's ironically this legal stuff is making him more popular, but can he get elected? I guess it's possible. But can he run from work? Or maybe he's on house arrest in Mar-a-Lago, and that's the new White House.
So the impression we have generally here, is that the Democrats via Biden hasn't been as successful as he could have. And actually, there's a bit of worry about Biden's age. Maybe he's got health conditions, and would he still be okay for next year? And then also, I think one thing that's kind of we've seen in the UK that's kind of we're looking at to America is the investment on green stuff, which the UK government's all over the place in terms of greens and getting the inflation down. But the infighting, what really annoys me is like the UK government will look at America, look at the infighting. I was like, what are you talking about? Look at the infighting here. It's like we're like snakes in a sack, just fighting against each other here. It's just but maybe that's what makes you notorious as a politician.
I think it's probably always been there. I mean, polarity is just part of nature, for one thing. If we zoom out into space, polarity is just part of nature. So that actually gives me a little bit of comfort, that even though it's looking grim or dangerous or could lead to even civil war. Well, hey, maybe that's just part of nature, man. We got to figure it out.
Yeah.
But to your points, I think it depends on who you ask. I tend to think the Democrats under Biden. I'm not saying it's because of him, but have really been managed to pass a lot of impressive things that I don't always agree with those things that were passed, but like the infrastructure bill, things like that Republicans like to take credit for, um, even though they voted against it. I think he's been able to move some really good things. Now, if you're a Republican, you'll say, well, those things are not in line with my party's values. Um, I'm trying to think of an example, and it escapes me. So it depends on who you're talking to. In my opinion, I think he is too old to run. I think he's still pretty good in a. I mean, another mistake a lot of people make is if I don't know Joe Biden. I live in D.C., but I don't have a front row seat to any of this.
Yeah.
So who knows? But I just listen to the people that I guess I respect. There's a very man. He's a very well known journalist for the New Yorker and I think New York Times and the Atlantic, who's a Republican. And he's still a Republican. He's anti-Trump though. He's one of those. But he said he was discussing how he's been able to meet Biden many times, and even recently. And he's talked about how good he was still in the room. In the room,
Okay.
he's
Good.
pretty good and pretty sharp. But he certainly comes across as not very with it.
And that's where you
public.
get the rumors from. Well, I say the rumors, the slanging phrases of like Sleepy Joe and all those from the Republicans. There's a journalist called I recommend he's an English journalist, Simon Marks, that he lives in the US. So he always gives his updates on his American week, and he's not wielded to one way or the other. He just says it how it is, and
Yeah.
he provides commentary with a factual basis, and it's actually really good going to him because it's he's neutral and he'll say it how it is. So yeah, I recommend.
You might have to zoom out and give an English politics 101 quickly. I know there's
Sure.
the Tories and the Labor Party, but
So yeah, you've got the majority. Well, you've got the government, which is made up of the Conservative Party, the Tories, as you say, and then the opposition is Labour, and then in amongst the Parliament, you've got other parties. You've got some Green party, I think one member. You've got the Scottish National Party, and you've got Liberal Democrats. But essentially, the two juggernauts that go head to head are Labour, who are the opposition, and Tories in the government. So the Tories, we had an election last in 2019, a whole host of promises by Boris Fantasyland Johnson. And since that time in 2019, we've had corruption in terms of PPE, in terms of COVID, i.e., ministers' mates getting 100 million contract deals for the supply of COVID, which materials which don't work, stopping suspensions into their mates when they've done lobbying. You've had lying to the public about there being parties during COVID in government when there were parties. There was what's called bring your wine Fridays. So whilst they were telling the entire country to isolate, don't mix with households, within government they had wine Fridays. They were bringing in suitcases of wine and getting completely pissed out of their skull and whatnot, and no social distancing at all. Whilst they were saying, and then going to Parliament and saying, yeah, there wasn't a party. Oh, but if there was a party, I didn't know there was a party. But oh yeah, there was a party, but everything was socially distant. I didn't know there was a party because I was ambushed by a cake for my birthday. So,
Now, was this
so
was that just for clarity? Was that just Tories, just Labour Party, or all parties?
just Tories, just
Oh, just
Tories.
Tories.
Yeah,
Oh,
just Tories. An absolute nightmare. And then you've had what's called the Chris Pincher affair, where Boris Johnson was told about this Conservative MP who had molested other two boys in a party, and Johnson just went, "Yeah, who cares? Well, I'll hire him," and then that all blew up, and that caused the downfall, and Brexit, which has been a complete disaster, plus other stuff. So then you had Liz Truss, who came in as Prime Minister. There's a newspaper called the Daily Star, and they had a live stream of a lettuce. And they said that the lettuce would last longer than Liz Truss. And it was true. Liz Truss, after 43 days, was ousted. Well, not ousted, she resigned. And so the lettuce was declared the winner. So the lettuce beat Liz Truss. On her watch, the UK economy tanked with, they just completely ruined the economy with their mini budget. And then Rishi Sunak came in. Now, what I'm really torn when it comes to Rishi Sunak, because I look at him and I think male, brown, Hindu. I think, wow, that's me. That is me. Representation, finally. But that's where it stops. He is another version of Johnson, but just more polite and unbelievably rich. But it doesn't matter. I don't really care about his wealth. Or that the reason I'm saying it is that a big song and dance is being made in the UK about his wealth. But don't really care about his wealth as long as he is logical and he knows what he's talking about. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's talking absolute nonsense. He lies.
really?
Yeah, so I'm thinking, and I'm like, oh God, if there was a person who could represent me, it shouldn't have been Sunak. I wish it was somebody else, because he's just a more brown version of Johnson and a more polite version of Johnson, and so that's where we are today in the state of the UK. There have been so many faux pas recently. The one classic one was Rishi Sunak trying to be a man of the people, but didn't know how to use a credit card when he was buying petrol. So I think everyone just thought, well, that's because your butler buys everything for you. You probably don't have it, don't? Yeah. So that's.
Can I just say, there's so many weird. It's like we're mirrors. It's just like we're a big. The Atlantic is a big two-way mirror or something. Or I don't know what the right analogy is, but you got Boris Johnson, a chubby blonde guy with weird hair. Just like Trump, chubby blonde guy who's got weird hair, suspect hair. And then, well, to skip forward to the other bookend of your synopsis there, you got Sunak, who doesn't know how to pay for petrol. We just had Mike Pence just got a lot of criticism because he has a commercial where he's like, I'm a regular guy, and he's got his truck and he's putting it with gas, but there's a beep the whole time because he didn't press the button. He's not even filling it. Because, and you know, same thing. He's like, clearly this guy doesn't know how to gas his own vehicle.
God. And yeah, the Parliament has become a joke at the moment. So there's one funny story that happened when an MP was caught. I'm not sure if he was suspended or resigned because he was caught watching porn whilst in Parliament, and his excuse was that he was looking for tractors, and there was one tractor called the Dominator, so so. So he was, and apparently typed in the Dominator, and that took him into a whole different zone. And so but I was thinking, well, why would you click on all these links and watch them in Parliament? And so, yeah, there's and what was interesting, it's like there was an investigation done, and there was a lot of cocaine in Parliament. So there's a lot of cocaine apparently that happens, and sexual harassment is something that is very serious in there, and it's that power instability. So you've got a lot of, it's mainly male dominated, but when you've got younger females coming in who want to have a career in politics, there is that imbalance, and it's something that's quite, well, not quite, extremely serious. And trying to address how that happens, because it is really intimidating for a young female to coming into parliament, into that kind of den environment.
Yeah, I'm sure it's the same in Congress. And there's just probably just as many scandals. Again, though, strangely, we just had one though on the Democrat side. They found cocaine in the White House.
Whoa.
Isn't that
Shit.
weird? The
God.
story. This is sort of recent, but has since dissipated in the media just because it's too many crazy things happening every day. But yeah, it was in Biden's White House. They found it, and I don't think it's come out who it belongs to. I think they ruled out. I was thinking, oh, maybe it was on one of their
Yeah.
tours. They have tours.
Yeah.
And maybe it was just a citizen or something, but it wasn't anywhere near that space. So
No, no, I don't. I can't imagine it'd be Kamala Harris as well. So no.
maybe Biden should take some cocaine before he goes out to speak. Maybe
Can
that'll
you
help
imagine?
him.
Can you imagine him coming out going, "All right, come on."
Hey, he'd win 2024.
Yeah, yeah, God. So that's the kind of 101 of UK politics. And what has torn UK politics apart is the decision to be outside of the European Union, um, which, so to give you an idea, we're the only country normally countries or zones, they enter into agreements to break down barriers and to make trade easier. We're the only country in history to enter into an agreement to make trade harder. So we've now got barriers between us and the biggest market in the world, the European Union. And this is what 52% of the population decided that they wanted. So we're now grappling with the effects of that. With our economy is all over the place at the moment. So
Is the lie in all this, from your perception, that is, did people vote for it because they're like, yes, we should isolate ourselves and we should take care of ourselves and we should not let immigrants in and we should be self-sufficient and we should have our own currency and we should have pride again in our country and who we are and where we come from, and then all the time sacrificing the interdependence that we just need to have
yeah,
in the world today?
well, David Cameron, the former prime minister, went to Europe to get a better deal, and Europe said, "What are you talking about? You're not part of Schengen, as in the free movement. You've got your own currency. You've got various heads of agencies, European agencies within your country. You've got your own bank. What more do you want? You've got an amazing deal as part of a member of the European Union." And yeah, we did. We'd have an amazing deal. But then the campaigners for Leave, brilliant campaigning, is all around 3 or 4 words: take back control. Brexit means Brexit. All those kind of so taking back control, it means nothing. Like taking back control of migration. Well, we always had the ability to restrict migration from Europe, but we just didn't use it. Belgium does it. We didn't do it. In terms of laws, we co-authored all the laws, and like GDPR, for example. So that applies to all of Europe, but we co-author that. When it comes to trade deals with Europe, we have access to about 700 or so trade and cooperation agreements. For some reason, we thought that's not good. We want to do it ourselves. So now, instead of having all these trade deals and whatnot, we decided, I know, we'll sacrifice that and have a trade deal with like Zimbabwe or Mexico, which is going to add 0.002% to our GDP over the next 10 years. All the while, we lose 4% of our GDP by being out of the EU. So all these lies and nonsense that were believed hook, line, and sinker, and this is where we are today.
What was the radio program again?
LBC, yeah.
The episode that came on after yours, it was a different guy. I don't know his name now. He was talking about the failure of Brexit, and he was like, if you still think Brexit was a good day or a good idea, I'm gonna start losing sympathy for you. And his point was, but maybe you're one of those that got in, and you alluded to this earlier, entrenched in your idea, and it's just so hard to let it go that you're still on board. So my question is, how do people feel about it today, especially those who voted for it?
Well, it's interesting because then you've got split camps. You've got those who say, right, let's talk about the impact of Brexit. And some people who voted for Brexit treat it like how a vampire treats sunlight. They're like, no, we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to talk about it. And I can understand why, because if you've made a monumental error with your choice, the last thing you're going to do is talk about it. Then you've got others on the other end of the scale who actually double down. And when you show them facts about the economy and how businesses are shutting down and everything else, they will double down and tell you that it's okay that we've torched the economy because we can now create rules about livestock animals being sent over. That's the whole reason for Brexit. And it's like in a casino when you're telling them not to put it on 7 because it's a wrong move, and they've lost more money and more money, and they'll think, oh no, I'm going to double down. I'm going to put even more money on that, rather than just pulling back and going, do you know what? That was a mistake. They hold their hands up. I guess it goes to psychology. Are you going to admit that you were conned? No, you're not. You're not going to admit that you're conned because to save face. So that's where those are. But I think there's a quiet, not majority, but quiet section of those who voted to leave thought, do you know what? It's being rubbish. So those were very small people who said that I've been hooked, I've been conned royally. Now that's growing slightly. They're feeling more comfortable saying that they were conned by these politicians, and that's growing and growing and growing. So who knows? By the time we have an election next year, that could be rearing its head again.
What interests were served by those who did the conning? And I think who's the main guy? There's a main guy, right? That kind of led the con.
Yeah, Nigel Farage, who's Trump's
yeah,
best
right.
mate. So
how's it in Nigel's interest to win this con?
That's really great question because he was a European MEP, and it just so happens that he had a bee in his bonnet to be important, maybe. And Boris Johnson wanted to be important as being, I wanted to thinking Europe was very bad. And I think it's classic with the Tory party. They want to point the finger at somebody to be the fall guy, because it's like, don't blame the Tory government for their inept competence and their failures in policy to do with infrastructure and everything else. Actually, it's not our fault. It's Europe. Blame Europe, blame Europe, blame Europe, blame Europe. So if you're the voter, rather than you sticking the finger towards the politician saying you're to blame why my business is suffering, you're to blame why the schools are crumbling, you're to blame why the health service is crumbling. If I'm being told by the politician, don't blame me, blame Europe, then my finger's going to go like that to Europe. I'll go, oh, it's Europe's fault. It's Europe's fault. So that lets them off the hook, because then if I'm looking towards Europe, I'm not looking towards you. And then they're thinking, okay, fine. No one's looking at us now.
Brexit was mostly, if I hear you right, mostly a Tory agenda.
Yeah, there was some from the Labour Party as well, but yeah, I'd agree it's mostly mostly from the Tory agenda. And the way it was sold was that you say you, Jesse, you're part of a gym, you have your membership. It was sold that you would leave the gym membership, but you would still have access to everything like you're a member. And everyone was like, on what on earth, what planet are you living on? If you leave your gym membership, you don't have access to everything like how you did as a member. Otherwise, what's the point of being a member? And so they were told it would just be easy. And actually, when there's friction, that's when people are getting really pissed off because they're thinking, hold a minute, you told me there'll be no friction. So, and there is. So,
how did it impact too? Wasn't there some fear of Northern Ireland
yeah,
becoming an issue again with leaving the Union?
yeah. So when it came to the Good Friday Agreement in '98, because of what we had, I don't know if your viewers know about the Troubles. We called the Troubles essentially, well, sometimes a civil war, um, where the island of Ireland is split between two. You've got the Republic of Ireland in the south, and you've got Northern Ireland at the top. And what happened in '98? There was a peace agreement to say, in terms of nationality and identity. So between Northern Ireland and Ireland, there were no border checks, which would cause quite a bit of violence back in the '90s and '80s. So that was underwritten by the EU. So there's free flowing of goods and movement and people between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. The reason that works is because both sides of the border are on the same regulatory framework. If Northern Ireland is going to have a different regulatory framework because of Brexit, then you need a border. Or you have a border in the Irish Sea that's between Northern Ireland and Great Britain. So what happened eventually was, instead of putting a border between Northern Ireland and Ireland, we've now got a border between Northern Ireland and England, Scotland, and Wales. And that's thanks to Brexit. So, because if you put border posts back on the island of Ireland, a lot of people were worried that that's going to be a return to violence.
Has everyone been able to avert that concern somehow?
There has been a return to violence on some scale, but not how it was in the '80s and '90s. But the border being on the Irish Sea has torn apart the two sets of governments in Northern Ireland in terms of Sinn Féin and the DUP. DUP is closely aligned to England and Wales and Scotland, and Sinn Féin is aligned with the Republic of Ireland. Now, DUP is saying, "Oh, I can't believe there's a border down the Irish Sea," and everyone's saying, "Yeah, but this was discussed 5 years ago. You've got to put the border somewhere, and you can't put it on the island of Ireland. So you have to put it in the Irish Sea." So, thanks to Brexit. So it was more like a slow clap to everyone who voted Brexit. See what the mess you caused. So
a slow clap. That's
yeah.
a famous one here too. The Nancy Pelosi to Trump.
Yeah.
Well, that might be. Well, obviously, I know everything about Irish politics because I'm a U2 fan. So, but maybe more importantly, maybe a good segue there. You probably know the story, but the why Holy Wars, Megadeth was written was Dave Mustaine back in the day when he was still a big drinker. Said, what did he say to the crowd? This one's for
the cause. So
this one's for the cause, and caused a riot or something, right?
Yeah. So somebody was selling bootleg tickets. They're playing in Northern Ireland, a place called Antrim. Somebody was selling bootleg T-shirts. Dave Mustaine went out, said, "What the hell are you doing?" I think it's around the time 88, 89. So far, so good. So what? And then the guy was saying, "I'm raising money for the cause," and then explained what that was. Dave, I think, had a few pills inside of some Guinness. I think he kind of got what it meant, but kind of didn't. Then when he came to play Anarchy in the UK or Anarchy in Antrim, he said, "This one's for the cause." Protestants one side, Catholics the other,
Yeah.
and apparently they had to be escorted out. It was sort of because there was going to be a riot, and they had to get their bulletproof bus to Dublin. And Ellison didn't speak to Mustaine the next morning, and then so that prompted the Holy Wars.
Holy Wars. Yeah. I remember the story. You told it much better than I could. But Dave Mustaine blacked out and then was told later what it done, and then wrote the song Holy Wars. So hey, segue. Your relationship with Dave, how did that start? And I
Wow,
saw
that's
pictures. It's on your cover photo. You're in the studio with them for Sick and Dying and the Dead, right?
no, that was Dystopia. So
Oh, Dystopia. Okay.
yeah, so I think starting from a fan, I was like a massive Megadeth fan in the early 90s. And it was just kind of, it just touched the chord with me. You see what I did there? Touched the chord. So it just kind of resonated with me, everything about Megadeth. And I just became more of a fan to a huge fan, just wouldn't stop listening to it. And then I then met Dave very briefly around the Cryptic Writings tour, along with Marty and Nick, RIP. Um, and then over the years on meet and greets, I I kind of met Dave and so on, and he kind of recognized me and so on. And then when it came to Las Vegas around 2012, 13, he kind of remembered me more. And then Pledge Music had this thing where you can pledge time in the studio when Megadeth were making Dystopia. So I pledged time in the studio and a guitar lesson with Dave, and traveled for all the way to Nashville, and then where it was in the studio, I think Leapers Fork. And then there I was in the studio hanging out with Kiko and Dave, and yeah, we just got on. We just instantly just yeah got on, and then we just stayed connected. He taught me how to play Holy Wars the correct way, not not by the tab book, which is wrong. Um,
Yeah.
I remember there's one point when he's teaching me how to play Holy Wars, and I said, yeah, but Dave, in the tab book, I thought, no, I don't want to say, don't want to continue with that. Um, but yeah, then we just stayed connected, and he was really gracious, and he said, look, you're supposed to leave at X time, but you could stay as long as you want. That's fine. And you and when I'm in London, let's kind of like, yeah, let's keep in touch and so on. So we just stayed in touch, and then he came to London, and then had met up with him and his wife and his daughter, and then yeah, we just kept in touch now and then, and then emails here and there. Then the was it last year, or the year before? Yeah, the year before, we spoke on the phone about me being on Sick, Dying, the Dead. He wanted me to say, "Bring out your dead," and the first few attempts were just horrible. So and he's what people don't realize about Dave. He's patient. He's really patient. So he explained like this is what he wanted. I was like, okay, fine. So on my phone, did the voice recording, sent it, and there you go. And then he contacted me and said, yeah, you're on the album. Here's a demo. Well, cool, brilliant. And then, yeah, so the first 30 seconds of the Sick, Dying, and Dead is me shouting, "Bring out your dead." But over the years, we're just like mates and stuff. And even when we met the boot camp, it was just like kind of, "Hey, how you doing?" kind of thing. So just old mates hanging out. I wouldn't say we're not the best of friends where we speak every day and whatnot, but I think there is that kind of level of respect, and we are mates. We can go for a drink, we can have a meal, or we can just hang out for about 10 minutes and just chat, and then away you go. And so I respect his privacy. I mean, the way I look at it, I'm just an average Joe from London. He's got millions of adoring fans around the world who all, not all, who a lot want a piece of him. And so I think that I naturally stay back. I don't overstay my welcome, if you know what I mean. I give
Yeah.
as much space as possible. And I think he respects that. I think he, if I was on his case every week saying hi, 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 I think he'll get really pissed off. But I think we're on that. We're both professionals as well. We're both like family men. We're both kind of musicians, even though I'm a part-time musician. He's a rock and metal god. But outside of him being this metal superstar, he's a human being. And so
Mhm.
when I talk to him, I talk to him like a human being. I don't talk to him like he's a god, if you know what I mean. And I think
Yeah.
he realizes that I I talk to him like a human being. I will disagree with him and I
Mhm.
will agree with him. So it's not like he says everything and I naturally agree.
Well, you're also a very charming and affable person.
and,
You
and the
know?
brown envelope to you. So yes.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, I get it. It's not surprising to me. It's fun being your friend from afar to hear that story. So when you were in the studio, when you pledged studio time, and then it just you got along so well, you exchanged numbers then,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's so
yeah,
cool, man.
yeah. I didn't ask at all. He just we exchanged emails and exchanged, details and numbers and so, and then yeah, we're just chatting away and we just hung out like normal. And
Yeah,
I think it's the fact that looking back, when I looked at my behavior, I think my behavior was chilled, calm, treated him like a mate, and was actually looking for his character and how he treated me. If I came in, was like, oh my god, oh Dave, and then I think our there would be no relationship because it would just be odd. So
is that your impression of me? And it's spot on.
um, and even like what people don't know about that, and Dave gets a really bad rap. And but when speaking to him, he's so generous with his time, even though he has no time. He has no time for any because he's so busy. But he's generous to give what he can, and he's really sharp with his humor. His memory is great considering like what's he's got on, how many plates he's spinning. I met him recently in when they were playing Bloodstock last month, and so I was at the hotel having dinner. Dave comes in, and then we end up having a chat for about 10 minutes or so, and then he immediately pats my belly, and he was like, "Hey man, married life's been really good to you, hasn't it?" And he pats my belly, and then he's like, "You need to do jiu-jitsu," and I was like, "Yeah, look, I just had the biggest fish and chips in the world. That's why I've got a huge belly." So, but we're on that kind of level, so it's but yeah, he's a really good guy, and it makes me sad that he gets such a bad rap for somebody who's got so much on his plate and he does so much, and then it just takes one journalist or whatnot just to say, "Ah, oh, Dave's an ass, Dave's a dick, Dave's this and Dave's that," and I was like, "Yeah, but have you actually hung out with him? Because he's actually a really nice guy." What surprised me, he's actually quite shy.
yeah.
He's really quiet, and he's really caring as well. He actually does have a good heart. You know what? I have to say that Megadeth Bootcamp was one of the best experiences, and it was really weird. It was 2 weeks after I got married, and so after I got married, I said to my wife, "Says, yeah, okay, see you later. I'm going over to see Megadeth." What was interesting is that the kind of bond that everyone created, it just it just continued after and sort of got stronger for a lot of people. Those who didn't speak actually got to speak more after. I really wish we could have done it again, because just to take it where we left off, because there were so many cool people. I thought it was really weird. If somebody was looking at this in a psychology point of view, just how you can chuck a load of people in, different nationalities, different races, and different backgrounds, but they all got one thing in common: they love Megadeth, and then they
Yeah.
don't know each other. Within 48 to 72 hours, um, the bond was just so amazing. Um, oh, and then I got a lift to the airport with Chaz and Alexis.
Yes.
Yeah, she was awesome. But yeah, just do you see what I mean? That kind of bond was generated so quickly within 3 days. It was like awesome.
Yeah. And how it continues to today.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
as you mentioned, some of those bonds getting even stronger over time. And I've mused about this a little bit too. Maybe it's radical. The show's called Radical Metal because while it's a play off Radical Middle, the metal scene is just everything you just said. It's this people from very disparate backgrounds coming together for a mutual love of something wonderful and satisfying to us.
Yeah, and it was awesome. And just for those who watching don't know, that my wife and I met you and Anna in Washington DC. We went for dinner. It was amazing, and you treated us to that dinner, which I thought was really gracious and amazing. And said to Nero, right, I want to treat Jesse and Anna when we meet up with them again. Yeah.
I love it because DC is a good hub because people do tend to come out here. But yeah, there's a good handful of people I talked to. Recently talked to Blake Chadwick. He's the drummer. He's a
Blake. Shit,
sick
yeah.
drummer.
Man, thanks. Yeah, I see some of his stuff on Facebook, and I was like, wow.
So when we saw him in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and it was really cool. And we went on the tour bus and hung out with those guys afterwards.
Oh wow, brilliant.
Had I been doing this show for a while, I probably would have asked maybe to turn the camera on, but of course that might have been a bad idea. I don't know.
Whenever I've met Ellison, whether it's meet and greet or backstage, he's always been really nice. He's always been really good as gold and very very gracious to the fans, and that's my personal experience. Probably for you as well. I don't know.
Oh yeah, well, he was really cool that night, and announced to everybody's like, "Hey, I married these guys," and yeah, always super cool. And Jeff Young was super cool. Chris Poland wasn't there on that part of the tour. I think that was just isolated to Southern California, but I think it will be on upcoming tours to some spots. So I never got to meet Chris Poland. But I was going to say, too, the times I talked to Dave Mustaine at Megadeth Bootcamp, and then maybe, I guess, a little bit at this Vegas trip, same thing, man. Super cool. He was like, he's the one who told me, he's like, hey, man, you got to get David Elfson to bless your wedding rings. He's like, just go in my house, find him. He's in there somewhere. And just really nice. And he was giving me marriage advice and all that stuff.
But yeah, that was cool. How was it from your point of view? Because we're all sitting down and we're just relaxed and so on. But you're up there. You and Anna are up there, and everyone is watching you. How did that feel? Or do you actually remember it because it was a bit of a whirlwind?
It was a bit of a whirlwind, but I think I think I didn't feel weird or anything. I think it was I love Anna, And
brilliant.
I know that's the right thing to say, but it's the true thing. And I was just in love with her and wanted to get married to her. and so I think that was the overwhelming part of it. I remember afterwards walking away, Anna was freaking out.
Whoa, shit, yeah.
Anna was definitely it was go up in the spiral, uh,
Wow.
in a
Yeah.
good way, I think, in a good way.
Yeah.
And I remember, now, oh gosh, I'm gonna do it again and not remember her name. She had Jesse's girl tattooed on her wrist because her husband, or maybe at the time boyfriend, I want to say, I don't remember. His name was Jesse. So
Oh,
she
okay.
anyway, she went and got us 2 shots of whiskey. If you remember, they weren't serving alcohol, booze. They were
Booze.
just
Yeah.
serving beer and wine. Excuse me, but
Wow.
the she found some whiskey and brought it to us to chill us
Now,
out a little bit. um, let's just real quick. I don't want to hold you for too long, but let's end on a positive note. Victory. Well, then we did Victory, and I knew you played guitar, and I know you were playing guitar at Megadeth Bootcamp. I didn't realize how much I did. I think later on, I think I saw a clip of you playing, and I'm like, damn, look at Milan, man, he's shredding. And then you just nailed the solo. It
thank
was
you.
the
Thank
first
you.
solo of Victory. It was just so cool to do that.
Um, that was amazing. I mean, my guitar journey has been a bit up and down because when you have work and when you have everything else, it just stops. So, in a weird way, COVID was like in a bizarre. What I'm going to say is beneficial because then you're kind of locked at home, can't go out. So I thought, oh, let me blow away the cobwebs off my guitar, retune it. Couldn't play shit. So then I had to start practicing slowly, 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 slowly. And then before you know it, after a few months, I was like, shit, I can now play Holy Wars again. I can now play Hangar 18 again. Right, let me tackle Take No Prisoners. And then it took a while, but then I was like, right, I could do Take No Prisoners, take Tornado Souls. And one of my favorite songs, which is really underrated, Blackmail the Universe.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever played that. It's so good in terms of the shredding.
Yeah.
And then when it came to Victory, I can't remember whose idea was it. Was it your idea, Victory?
I think it was mine, and the only reason I can claim it, I think, is because for some reason, I was not familiar with euthanasia. I just like skipped over it. I don't know why,
Yeah.
and then I'd since gone back. I came back to it because of at Megadeth Bootcamp. Me, Chaz, and some others were talking about doing a song together. What should it be? And then I'm like, oh, it should be Victory, because Victory covers down on all the legacy
Yeah.
all the legacy stuff they'd done up until Victory, and so I thought that would be a good one to.
And then we divvied up the riffs and solos and whatnot, and then that was awesome. And it wasn't just everyone contributing; it was also the editing that you did, and your blooming wig that you wore. I think you wore that. That was awesome. I thought that was so good. And I think I sent it to Dave, and I said, "Hey, what do you
You
think?"
texted me
Yeah,
or on Facebook and said that you sent it to him and he liked it.
yeah. So I sent it to him. Hey, what do you think? And then he was like, "Yeah, it's all cool."
We should do another one. And now that I think of it, I'll put a link to Victory.
I have to say, you are a really talented musician. I've listened to My Marie, and that was amazing how you done that. And then what was the other one? Sifted Grain or something like that?
Sifted Grain. Yeah, I really appreciate you saying something about that. Yeah, you gave me a nice compliment when I put that out. That was supposed to be on our album Tridem. I don't know what's going to happen to us. We recorded like 4 songs. We got a ton of other songs, but we just, with kids and
Yeah.
life, haven't been able to get it together. But yeah, that was one I just did on my own.
That was awesome
And
because it had that crunch, that kind of a 1980s crunch, and then that
yeah,
melody, and then and that melody, and then the kind of singing and the harmony of it. It was, I thought, wow, oh, awesome.
thanks. I appreciate that. I remember getting very good tone that day on my guitar. I was
Yeah,
really got dialed it in really well that day. I don't always get it, but yeah, it's some nice. Every once in a while, you get blessed with some good riffage.
it's one of those ones where I don't know if you, when I'm just mucking around and I come up with a riff and I think, wow, that's really good. And then 20 seconds later, I've completely forgotten like, what's the order. I'm like, God.
Yeah, all the time. And I have not been playing as much recently, though. I'm trying to make this channel to have great conversation, but also great covers. So I am learning right now Alice in Chains, "Rain When I Die" on the Dirt album,
Right. Yeah.
because
Yeah. Remember that.
I really love that song. So I have picked up again recently, but typically if I'm tooling around and trying to, and I come across something cool, I'll just get the iPhone out
And
and
then
try
just
to
record.
record it
Remember. So
and
what?
record me playing it, so I remember where my hands were.
Because I've been into metal since the 90s, and it's always been one of these places that I thought, oh, do you know what? I'm the only non-white in this whole venue. Listen to metal. And originally, I used to get really fearful because of like, shit, am I going to get beaten up here? Something. And do you know how many times I've had troubles at a metal concert? Zero. It's been
Yeah,
no one gives a shit. So the amount of people have come up and said, "Oh, cool T-shirt. Yeah, yeah, I've got the album." I was like, "Oh, cool. What do you think of the first song?" And you just chat, chat, chat. And the amount of people who are not into metal, when they ask me, "But don't you feel fearful that you're the only non-white?" I go, "No one gives a shit. Everyone's there for the music. No one cares what background you're from. No one cares what color you are or what religion. It's all about the music. As long as there's double bass, as long as there's crunch, that's what everyone wants."
yeah.
So yeah, that's what everyone wants, and everyone just comes together like a community. And when I was describing it to my missus, like festivals and concerts, I was going, look around. This is a community. And then she like understood, go, yeah, yeah, God, everyone's so friendly. Even though everyone looks like they're in a horror film,
Yeah.
everyone's so lovely and friendly. I go, yeah, this is my safe place, metal. Like everyone is so loving of the, and that's the word I look for, community.
It's such an interesting petri dish because it's yeah, they what everybody's wearing, everything is like, look at your shirt. That is scary. You know, I wouldn't want to meet that guy in an alleyway, but at a metal show, he would be probably pick me up if I fell down in the mosh pit.
Yeah, exactly. Oh God, yeah, when I'm walking down the street, the amount of people who look at me, look at my t-shirt, and just walk the other way and just think. But you're right. At a metal gig, you know instantly you've got a friend. You
Yeah,
know, there's no conversation needed. You've got a friend
yeah,
immediately.
yeah. Well, hey man, maybe that's a good way, nice positive way to end the show today.
So what happens now then? Now you've got this session. Are you going to edit it up and then it goes?
Yeah, I'm gonna. Well, this is what I do. So I will say our goodbyes, and then I watch it again. And I take notes, and then
Oh, okay, right.
I send those notes. Oh, we should talk about him a little bit. But I send those notes to my new friend from afar, Simon Hope, who is an avid Mastodon fan too. We're in a fan group on Facebook called Mastodon Mayhem, and we
Yeah.
got connected via their admins for that group because I was looking to take this show, put more energy into it, take it seriously, and was just going to hire someone to do one video. Now I don't remember what it was because we've done a few since he started, but And anyway, we got introduced. We did this,
Mm.
I just talked, and we really are quite similar in our sensibilities. He's from Birmingham. I call him the mage behind the stage. He's got a big beard. It's awesome. But he takes use the Final Cut editing tool, and then he'll take my notes, send me a new version. I'll do it again, watch it, take notes, and he puts the bells and whistles. Man, makes it look all professional.
That's really
Um,
cool. There's one of my things I'd love to do is write a screenplay for a horror film. And so I'm
oh
always
yeah,
interested in like, and just because I love horror, and then kind of like, oh, I wonder being a director and what I have to do and take notes and snippets here, snippets there, and that'll be.
yeah. He's just awesome because I think he would make the same cuts that I'm suggesting to make. I think we're on the same page there, which I think is pretty amazing. Uh, but then he'll also give suggestions and throw some things in there that are awesome, just that I hadn't thought of. That is just, I don't know. It's just wonderful. It's really, I feel very blessed to now know him and that we're working together on this thing.
You mentioned a couple of classic bands. Can I give you a quick story that
Yeah.
may or may not? So my mum, where we used to live, my mum introduced me to a neighbour of ours. This is going back at least 20 years. Going back a neighbour of ours, and then I just was told that he's into music somehow, and so I just was talking to him about Megadeth. I play the guitar, heavy metal, and I just kept going on, and he just listened politely to me. And, oh, okay, okay. And I said, oh, so what? My mum tells me you're into music. So what kind of instrument do you play? Do you play an instrument? And he just smirked and went, well, I play bass as well as other stuff. I was, oh, that's pretty cool. So
Mm.
this went on for 2 years, where every time I met him, it's like, hey, Megadeth, man, I love metal, or Dave Mustaine, and he's like, oh yeah, 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 very good. I said, oh, I've just seen Megadeth in concert, awesome. Like apparently you play in bands, like what sort? You play in pubs? And he said, well, Milan, I play in venues bigger than pubs. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Um, then I went to the music shop in the central London, and I saw Bass Player magazine. I saw my neighbour on the front cover. I go, what's John doing on the front cover of this magazine? Ex Led Zeppelin bass player John Paul Jones to release a new album.
I want to say, gosh, I think you told me that, but I forgot. John Paul Jones, no way. So
Yeah,
you
and I
still
was
talk to
like,
him?
no, because we've moved now. But I mean, he's so he's just a lovely, lovely guy. And then I said, oh hey, I saw you on front of Bass Player magazine. And he's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I've got a concert in just down the road. There's a venue. Here's 2 tickets. So went backstage. I've got my mate with me, and then my mate was with me. He goes, "Oh my god!" I went, "Milan, look, look, look!" I went, "What? It's Pete Townsend." I went, "Who's Pete Townsend?" So it's when you're just metal, 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 death metal, Megadeth, and all that. Everything else you just haven't got a clue. So yeah,
Oh, that's so
yeah,
cool. Well, hey, thanks for giving me some time, man. It was so great and fun to catch up.
yeah, definitely, definitely, awesome. That I really enjoyed this. So thank you for asking. So
Yeah, and maybe we'll do it again sometime. Maybe we could just call and hang out again. Just
yeah, I'll be up for
not
that.
not not record it, or maybe
Yeah,
record it, but just do it for fun.
yeah, and I'm happy. Yeah, us to catch up again. And also, if you want to do a few of us from the boot camp, if you want, like me, you, and Chaz, or me, you, and some other people, like so
Like a reunion show.
why not?
Yeah,
Why not?
man. Yeah, that sounds good. I'll let you know. That would be fun.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. Cool. And can you let me know when it's live, when it's all edited and it's gone on YouTube? That'd be brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll post it for sure in the Megadeth Bootcamp too. But I'll let you know. Is it something? Do you want to see it first?
I trust you wholeheartedly and unreservedly, Jesse. So
you see it released, and it's like a deep fake of you saying Dave Mustaine sucks, and I'll make a bizarro version of it just to freak you out. And then I'll send it to Dave Mustaine. I'm like, you think you're friends with Milan, but this is what he says about you.
It's actually Dave phoning me. No, it isn't. No.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, hey, really great talking to you. It was really a joy, and we will see you soon, man.
See you soon. Keep it metal.
All right, brother.
Okay. Take care. See you, brother. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.